Cash, where today we are going to be doing our first mock draft for the 2026 NFL Draft. This is going to be a post-trade deadline mock draft because normally not many team needs change from the trade deadline, but we did see some draft picks get traded, especially mainly the Colts first round pick going to the Jets, which will change the mock draft more than anything else that happened in the trade deadline. And again, this order is not finalized as we only are 10 weeks into the season. But I thought since the trade deadline has now passed, since we're halfway through the season, it's a good time to do our first mock draft. I will go through this a little bit quicker because we still have half the season left to go to determine a lot of things when it comes to the draft. So we will go through this a little quicker. But let's get into this first mock draft of the draft season. So the first pick is currently the New Orleans Saints. I think it's pretty obvious that they go quarterback. Do you go Fernando Mendoza? Do you go with Dante Moore? I mean, I know they have Shuck. I know they have Rattler. But when you're picking number one overall, and when there's quarterbacks worth potentially taking number one, I think you have to go with them. And I'm going to have the Saints go with Fernando Mendoza out of Indiana. Again, I think it's a toss-up between who goes number one between him and Dante Moore. But for this draft, I will go with Mendoza. Titans at 2. Now, they have their quarterback, so they're not going to go with Dante Moore. And I think when you have your quarterback and you're still picking this high like the Titans are, I think you just go best player available, especially when that best player is at a franchise-changing or franchise player position like edge rusher in Ruben Bain. When you can take the best player available and that best player available can be at such a key position like edge rusher and as good as Ruben Bain is, I think it's a no-brainer. You have your quarterback on offense, your franchise piece at quarterback on offense in Cam Ward, and you get it at defense at edge rusher in Ruben Bain. And that leaves the Jets at 3, in my opinion, to take the second best quarterback in the draft, Dante Moore out of Oregon. The Fields, I know they signed Fields to a contract, but I'm pretty sure it was just a 2-year deal, which is why I wasn't mad at the contract, because if he doesn't play well and you take a quarterback in the draft, that's an expiring contract. You could probably trade it if you want because it's expiring, or just keep him as a backup to Dante Moore, or start Justin Fields because you don't have to worry about getting a quarterback, and that way you're not pressured to play Dante Moore right away. So I think the Jets finally get the quarterback high in the draft that they want, and they get Dante Moore. Dolphins at 4, similar to the Titans. I don't think they move on from Tua just yet. I think it's just going to be really difficult to move on from him. So I think similar again to what the Titans did, you take best player available, especially when they're as good as Caleb Downs is. I mean, he can play all over the field. He's been one of the top draft prospects for a while now in this draft. I'm going Caleb Downs to the Dolphins. Giants at 5. I really think they should invest in that offensive line. They could use corners well. You know, you got guys like Jermon McCoy, Mansour Delane, Avion Terrell, if I'm pronouncing that name right. You have good corner options, don't get me wrong, but I think when you have a guy like Jackson Dart, who you took last year in the first round, who has played very well in his rookie season, you already have Andrew Thomas at one side of your O-line at left tackle, and there is a guy in Spencer Fano out of Utah who plays right tackle, so it works perfectly with Andrew Thomas, and you can protect your franchise quarterback that has played well despite not the best O-line. I think you take it. You got your receiver Malik Neighbors. You have your running back in Cam Scadaboo. Why not get your right tackle in Spencer Fano out of Utah? The Cleveland Browns at 6. I don't think they go quarterback here. You still have Dylan Gabriel. You still have Shador. I think they wait on quarterback, and I think they try and help said quarterback, whoever it's going to be, Shador or Dylan Gabriel. Maybe they sign a guy in free agency, trade for a guy. I don't think they go to the quarterback trade market. That didn't work out last time. They went that route. So I don't think you do that. I think you just build your supporting cast for whatever the two quarterbacks you start next season. And I think a great way to do that is get them weapons. You have Jerry Jeudy, you have Harold Fannin, you have your two young running backs. But outside of Jeudy, you don't have a lot in the receiver position. So I think they go receiver. It's Tyson or Malachi Lemon. Makai Lemon. I'm going to go Jordan Tyson out of ASU. I think he is the best receiver in the draft. And I think you give Gabriel / Shedeur a real weapon outside of Jeudy at the receiver position. Raiders at 7. This could be a quarterback because there are still two quarterbacks that I believe are first round caliber / could go in the first round in Ty Simpson and Lenore Sellers. But I don't think the Raiders go QB. I think they like Geno enough. And I don't actually know the contract they gave Geno Smith. I'm looking it up real quick. They gave him a 2-year contract. So he's a free, similar to the Justin Fields case. He's going to be a free agent next year. Not next year, but the offseason. Oh, wait, no, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. He's still under contract for 2 more seasons for a lot of money. So I think they hold on to him for 1 more year and hold off on going quarterback. And I think they help that defense out. And I think you can't pass up at a guy like Peter Woods here. You have Max Crosby as your superstar pass rusher. You have Tyree Wilson, who you're hoping to continue to see development from. Why not get the clear best player on the board, pair him alongside Crosby on that D-line? I'm going Peter Woods to the Raiders. Bengals at 8. You could go O-line here, but interior O-line is their biggest need on the O-line, and I don't think you take any of these guys at pick 8. The Bengals need defense. They have to go defense. I think it's either TJ Parker at edge rusher or Jamon McCoy at corner. I think you just go best defensive player available, which I think is TJ Parker out of Clemson. Commanders at 9. Similar thing here. I think they need defense. Their offense is pretty good, especially with Jaden Daniels. I think you need to focus on the defensive side of the ball. It's either Jamon McCoy or I think Keldrick Folk is in play here at pass rusher. I know their corners are weak, but you do still have Trey Amos, who I like. Sainer still, I'm still not sure about Sainer still yet. But I think they go Keldrick Folk here, edge rusher, out of Auburn at 9 instead of a guy like Jermon McCoy. Ravens are at 10. I don't think this will stay that way, but right now the Ravens are picking at 10. Another team I think should go defense. Their defense has played pretty decent the last week or two, and they also played very good at the end of last season, so maybe that's just what happens with the Ravens defense. But I think they should go defense. You could look receiver here, but Makai Lemon being primarily a slot guy, I don't think is what the Ravens would want at receiver. And outside of him, the next best receiver is Carnell Tate, which they could go with here. But I think they look more defense. And a guy I like is Arvell Reese out of Ohio State. He can play in the box. He can play on the D-line. I think he's going to go much higher than the ADP on this website at 28. So I'm going to go Arvell Reese to the Ravens. They already have Kyle Hamilton as that piece that can sort of play so many different positions. Why not get another versatile-esque player in Arvell Reese? Rams are next up at 11. They have 2 first-round picks because this one's from the Falcons. What a trade that was. And I think they really need corners. The one weakness on that defense has been their secondary. Their front 7 is very good, right? And their offense, we all know, is good. I don't think they go quarterback. They could go with a Ty Simpson. I don't think they go that route. I think they go Jermon McCoy, corner, out of Tennessee. That is their clear weakness on defense. Why not address it with the best corner available? Cardinals are up at 12. They could go quarterback here. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how much longer Kyler Murray has as the Cardinals quarterback. But once again, I think they keep him on the team for now and they don't go QB here. And a pick I love for the Cardinals is Carnell Tate. You have Marvin Harrison as that. Now, Harrison can play like slot in the inside, but I feel like they like him at slot. Why not get a fellow Ohio State receiver, create that Ohio State duo, get Carnell Tate for Kyler, for Jacoby Brissett, whoever the quarterback's going to be next year. And I think you get that Ohio State receiver room. One thing you can never doubt is drafting an Ohio State receiver. When in doubt, draft a receiver that goes to Ohio State. So I like Carnell Tate to the Cardinals. Texans are up at 13. It's got to be O-lineman. I don't see why you take any other position here. The best lineman available is Francis Mauigoa. I definitely butchered that last name, but tackle from Miami, best lineman available. Houston has to go with an O-lineman. They'd be doing C.J. Stroud a disservice if they didn't draft an offensive lineman. Cowboys at 14. You think go defense, right? Because the Cowboys have an absolutely horrible defense. But they just signed Javonte Williams this offseason to a contract, but it's only a 1-year contract. He's going to be a free agent, and I feel like the Cowboys are going to go and get Pickens extended and just not pay Javonte Williams, even though he's having a great season. And when there's a talent like Jeremiah Love on the board at running back position, it just feels like a Cowboys pick to go with draft defense, and they go ahead and draft Jeremiah Love. So I'm going Jeremiah Love to the Cowboys at 14. Vikings are up at 15. They could go offensive line, but I feel like they spent a lot of money on the O-line, so I don't think they draft someone here in the first round. They potentially could have went Jeremiah Love if he was on the board, but there's no other running back worth taking, especially at 15 here. So I think they focus their attention to defense, and the best defensive player available is Mansour Delane. You could go him or Caleb Banks, but just like how they spent money on the O-line, they spent money on the D-line as well. They could use some corner help. You got Byron Murphy, but that's really about it. I'm going Mansour Delane out of LSU to the Minnesota Vikings. Panthers are up at 16. We're going back-to-back corners here. And I'm going to go Avion Terrell. Nice. Yes, he's a little smaller, but he can give you that outside, sometimes slot corner. They have J.C. Horn on one end, who's obviously one of the best corners in the league, but they don't have a lot outside of that. You can get Avion Terrell, build that young corner room next to J.C. Horn, because looking at the board, I don't think they need receiver. It says here they need receiver. I don't think they need receiver. They don't really need a tight end. They could go with an edge rusher. I was leaning towards the edge rushers, but I feel like corner, because they spent their second and third round pick last year on edge rusher, it feels like corner is more of a need. So I went with Avion Terrell to the Panthers at 16. Chiefs at 17. There's no O-lineman here. I could see, but I feel like with Josh Simmons, they would stay away from O-line, but they could go with Caden Proctor. I was thinking Caden Proctor here because with what we've seen Alabama do with him, I feel like the Chiefs would want to take him and do the same thing, if not more, with a guy like Caden Proctor. But I think they go with Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Travis Kelce's getting up there in age. They don't really have their next Travis Kelce. I mean, I don't mind Noah Gray, but he's not your future tight end post Kelce. Sadiq can be that. I like Sadiq to the Chiefs at 17. Bears at 18. Says here they need linebacker or D-line. So I think it's between Ohio State's Sonny Styles at linebacker or one of these D linemen. I think they need interior D-line over pass rusher. So I'm going to go Caleb Banks, the best D lineman out of Florida, to the Bears at 18. Browns at 19. They got Jordan Tyson at 6. So they don't need receiver. They could go Caden Proctor here as well at tackle. They could go with a corner and get a guy like Colton Hood. Probably the only corner you take there. I think it's between Hood and Proctor. They don't need pass rush. They don't need Mekhi Lemon after getting Jordan Tyson. I don't think they need another receiver as well. They don't need Lemon or any other receiver. I think they go Caden Proctor here. I think they just invest in the quarterback position. You have your two sort of unknown quarterbacks in Gabriel and Shador. So you either help them out, or if they don't work, when you plug in your next quarterback, they have a better cast with Tyson, with Proctor. So I like them beefing because their defense is good, right? I think they should go all in on offense with their 2 first-round picks because they got that one in the Travis Hunter trade. Steelers are up at 20. At first I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to retire this year. Now it feels like there's a chance he plays next year, but regardless, you need your quarterback of the future. I don't think it's Will Leonard. I like Ty Simpson here. He fell a little bit in this draft because a team like the Raiders at 7 didn't take him, or a team like the Cardinals at 12, or even the Rams at 11 didn't go quarterback. So we kind of fell, and I think Pittsburgh would be crazy not to take a guy like Ty Simpson at 20, considering Aaron Rodgers likely is going to retire. Lions are now, they will know about Aaron Rodgers' decision, but even if he decides to play, I still think they should take quarterback, especially if Ty Simpson falls. Lions are at 21. I feel like if they're not going to go O-line, which you probably aren't here at pick 21 with what's available, I think you go defense. I know corner is a big need for Detroit, but they haven't really had success drafting corners recently. And outside of Colton Hood, there's not really a corner you'd take here at 21. But you got LT Overton you could take at edge rusher. You have Romello Height you can take at edge rusher. Cassius Howell, David. There's so many good edge rushers you could take here at 21. And they need that guy outside of Aiden Hutchinson. So I'm going to go David Bailey out of Texas Tech to the Lions at 21. Chargers at 21. We're going to see a little run here of edge rushers. Khalil Mack's getting up there in age. You have Tuli Tuipulotu, who I like, but you need a guy next to him. You need your Khalil Mack replacement. You already lost Joey Bosa. So I'm going to go with Cassius Howell out of Texas A&M to the Chargers. And I mentioned a run of edge rushers. We're going to get another one right here to San Fran. I'm going to go with LT Overton. It's him or Romello Height. I'm going Overton out of Alabama. They need that guy next to Nick Bosa. We've seen once Nick Bosa went out for the season, that 49ers pass rush has been horrible this year. Why not get Nick Bosa back and get a guy like LT Overton in the draft? Cowboys are next up at 24. I mean, you could go tackle here and get a guy like Jennings Dunker, who's probably the only first-round tackle. I mean, maybe Caleb Lomu as well. One of these two guys you could take at tackle. You could go with a Sony Styles linebacker out of Ohio State. But you know what? Why not let the edge rush run continue? You trade away Micah Parsons. You don't have that edge rusher to replace him. You got the interior. You got Kenny Clark in the trade. You trade for Quinn Williams. You have your interior D-line. And that's going to make it a lot easier for whoever your edge rushers are. Why not get a young guy, Romello Height? 4 straight edge rushers. Yes, 4 straight edge rushers. Probably won't happen, but these 4 teams won't be next to each other in the draft anyway. Romello Height. Keep him home as well, Texas Tech. I don't know if he's from Texas, but he plays in Texas right now, so why not keep him in Texas? Bills are next up at 25. A guy who fell very far is Makai Lemon out of USC. The reason he fell, though, is because he's primarily a slot guy. And I felt like teams that potentially need a receiver didn't need a slot guy, like a Detroit, like a Arizona. So that's kind of why he fell. But Buffalo could use a slot guy. You got Keon Coleman. He's a boundary guy. Why not get Makai Lemon out of USC? Seattle at 26. They don't need defense, in my opinion. They need offensive line. You could go Jennings Dunker at tackle, but I feel like your tackles are solid. I think they should invest more in the interior. I'm going to go with, I think, Vega Ione. I think he shortens his name Vega. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm going to call him Vega Ione out of Penn State. Beef up that O-line. Continue to invest in Sam Darnold as your franchise quarterback because I believe he is that. And again, their defense is so good, I don't even think you need to touch that with a first-round pick. You can sign free agents, trade for guys, but I don't think they need to get a first-round pick. Spend a first-round pick on that defense. I think they need to spend it on that O-line. Rams are next at 27. This may be an interesting pick here, but I'm going to go quarterback LaNorris Sellers. Matthew Stafford's old. He's getting up there in age. It feels like almost any quarterback could succeed in this Sean McVay offense. LaNorris Sellers is the last remaining quarterback that you could even consider going in the first round. Why not have him learn under Sean McVay, learn under Matthew Stafford? He doesn't even have to play for like 2 years. He can do the Mahomes, Alex Smith thing or the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre thing and just not play him. Learn under Stafford, learn under Sean McVay, get guys like Kyron and Puka and Blake Corum and Ferguson, because Devontae Adams might be off the team when LaNorris Sellers plays. But I think it's a perfect situation for a guy like LaNorris Sellers. And because they have the first round pick from the Rams, which they spent on Jermon McCoy, I feel like if they just had their first round pick, I feel like they maybe wouldn't want to spend it on a quarterback and, help continue to build the team around Stafford. But because they were already able to do that with their first round pick via Atlanta by getting McCoy, I feel like that might incentivize them more to potentially take a quarterback like LaNorris Sellers. Broncos at 28. I mean, their defense is really good, but they still could use improvements. It says here they need linebacker, and I really like the idea of them getting a linebacker because Dre Greenlaw has his injury concerns. Alex Singleton is getting up there in age, and I think he might be a free agent. You could go running back, but I really like R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins as a duo, and I don't think you go with Jonah Coleman or Nicholas Singleton at pick 28. You could go tight end here, but again, you're not going to go Max Clare at 28. Those are the guys you can take later in the draft, and there's a perfect linebacker for Denver, and that's Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. I think Denver getting a linebacker is perfect, and the only guy that they would take here at 28 would be a guy like Sonny Styles, and if he falls to you at 28, I think it's a no-brainer for Denver because of the age/injury issues going on with their current linebackers. Tampa Bay at 29, I think they need pass rush. I think they need defense, to be honest. They could have went linebacker, but Sonny Styles being off the board kind of rules that out. The best pass rusher available is R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma. That's who I think Tampa Bay should take here at 29. New England at 30. Now, New England can go a lot of different directions here. They could go tackle and get Jennings Dunker to pair alongside Will Campbell. They could go pass rusher and get a guy like Quincy Rhodes Jr. But I also like receiver for them because Diggs is getting up there in age. Matt Collins is sort of like a bridge depth guy. The only young pieces that have shown you anything are Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. But are those really your future two receivers? I think you're going to want another guy in that future receiver core. Kyle Williams, it could be Kyle Williams, who knows. But I'm going to go with Denzel Boston out of Washington. I mean, his last name is Boston. It makes too much sense to put Denzel Boston in Boston. So that's my pick to New England at 30. Philly at 31. They need corner, in my opinion, really bad. You have Quinyon Mitchell and you have Cooper DeJean. But after that, your next boundary corner, because Cooper DeJean's a nickel safety corner type player, your next boundary corner, you don't have anything outside of Quinyon. You need a guy next to Quinyon. And there's a clear, good, really good corner available, and that's Colton Hood. Because if you look at the corners, it's him or A.J. Harris. Colton Hood, I think, makes perfect sense in Philly alongside Quinyon. You can keep Cooper DeJean in that nickel and have Quinyon and Hood be your outside corners. And the last pick in the first round is New York at 32 via the Sauce Gardner trade. They took Dante Moore at 3, and you know what? I like KC Conception here. And the reason I like KC Conception is because you have Garrett Wilson, who's your slot route technician type receiver, who, I think, wants to do mainly his damage in like the middle, intermediate part of the field and just get open. And you know who can help him do that? A really fast receiver like KC Conception, because he will spread and space that field out so much for Garrett Wilson and any other offensive weapon on this Jets team. And then you got a guy like Dante Moore throwing it, or Justin Fields if you sit Dante Moore for a little bit. But I'm going to go with KC Conception to the Jets at 32. I'll quickly zoom this out so you can see the whole first round. Again, the order is going to change a lot, but it was the post-trade deadline, so I thought I'd do my first mock draft of the 2026 draft. Let me know in the comment section some of your thoughts on this draft and who you think and who you want your favorite team to currently take. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.